The year was 2001. The location, the hood, specifically elementary school. There once was a kid. Short, pale, skinny. But don't be fooled by his looks, because he was the source of all fear in that school. The most gangster of them all. The things this little youth has done throughout the years in and out of school put the whole city on notice. He ran the show. Everyone submitted to his rules. How, you ask? Well, we're about to see how my brother was once the most feared, most wanted, most dangerous, and most hated kid in elementary school. So get the popcorn ready, dim the lights. I want 5,000 likes in this video. Subscribe to the channel, trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. Picture this, if you will. He went by the name Lil Noobnoob. Fresh off the boat from unknown lands, mother brought us to the United States of America in pursuit of a better life. And so we landed in the hood. Mother was strict. Don't talk to no one. Don't look at anyone. Don't do anything. You know, that kind of thing. Why, yes, of course, mother. That was obviously me. Lil Noobnoob, on the other hand. Oh, what, ma? What are you gonna do about it, That was the first time he talked back to her. This was the beginning. The next day, it was our first ever visit to the mall. And so he got lost in the middle of the mall. Hours we spent looking for him. He was hiding all along, but when I found him, he would say, "Hey man, I'll smack your bitch ass if you tell on me." And he disappeared. I feared for my bitch ass and decided to apply the rules that I heard in the streets of the hood. Snitches get stitches. And speaking of stitches, the security got involved and eventually found Lil Noobnoob. "Ma'am, is that your son?" The security guard told my mother as she looked down to see Lil Noobnoob with his left hand drowned in blood as he started to scream. "Oh shit! Oh shit, man, it hurts! Oh shit, man!" You see, he had stuck his hand at the end of the escalator. Even the news showed up. Hundreds were surrounding the scene. The ambulance eventually showed up to the scene and stitched him up. 2 hours later at home, I met him in our bedroom. He looks at me and says, "Hey man, see this shit right here? I'm a real one. It's some gangster shit." It was very troubling to me. A week later, school started, and Lil Noob wasn't having it. However, 3 days in and he has 3 different gal on him, thinking he's cute and all. He would come back home for an entire month, repeating the phrase, "Bitches love the bad boys, man." One of the girls eventually expressed her feelings, pouring her emotions to him with eloquent love rhymes and exquisite poetry that would make the average youth tear up from the beauty of the emotions expressed. But not Lil Noobnoob. In front of the whole classroom, all waiting for him to say yes and become her boyfriend, he looked at her, top to bottom twice, and told her, "Bitches love the bad boys. But Lil Noob don't fuck around with no snack, bitch. Get the fuck out of my face." Everyone was shocked. I mean, at least say no respectfully. It was at that moment where the kids feared him and knew not to mess with him. However, all the girls wanted him even more, but they knew they couldn't have him. He was on another level. His teacher, Mrs. Smith, even got involved. "Mrs. Smith, this ain't none of your business. Your business is to tell me what 2 + 2 is. Stick with that, alright?" He got smacked in the face. Mrs. Smith had avenged the gal. But of course, Lil Noobnoob wasn't having it. "Hey man, I'ma tell the principal that you be hurting little innocent kids, man." Of course, the elementary was in the hood, and the principal didn't give 2 fucks. But Lil Noobnoob never stopped his rebellious activities. The very next day, during the designated bathroom break, frantic screams were heard coming out of the girls' bathroom. To everyone's surprise, it was Noobnoob stepping out. Now, of course, he didn't do the mad thing in there, but he did come out with the Grinch's smile on his face. Why did he decide to go in there? No one knows to this day. He was forced to have a meeting with Mother regarding his disturbing activities. Mrs. Smith went on, and my mother would tell Mrs. Smith, "Really? You should be lucky that's all he's doing. If I were you, Mrs. Smith, I will be quiet, and I won't provoke him, ever. Or else you will get the full police department squad at your front door." Mrs. Smith looks at Lil Noobnoob, the Grinch smile still not wiped from his face. You see, this police story was kind of a big deal. A couple of weeks prior this incident, my brother wanted a Hot Wheels collection. And so he asked my grandmother, God rest her soul, if she can buy them for him. Grandmother was like, "Less of that, kid. Go do your homework." And so he told my grandmother, "Nah, Granny, nah. You don't understand. I'll call the cops if you don't." Grandmother didn't speak English, of course, and thought he told her, "Yes, grandmother. I will go do my homework immediately, and I won't get out of my room until I'm done." 15 minutes later, my mother shows up from work and sees the red and blue sirens. 5 cars. Of course, it wasn't anything new in our hood, but this time she noticed that they were in front of her house. The cops were armed and ready. They tell my mother that they received a call from this house. A kid in distress, screaming, "Help!" My mother was panicking, and alongside the police, they stepped in to find an old lady watching a soap opera. I was there too, of course. I wasn't crying or anything, of course not. I wasn't a wimp. Lil Noobnoob was hiding behind the door, with the Grinch smile on his face. Of course, my mother was relieved no one was hurt. But it was that day that we all thought that Lil Noobnoob would finally learn his lesson. He had a very strict conversation with the cops, an Oscar-winning speech from mother, and even father got involved. And you don't want to get father involved. But did he learn his lesson? Of course not. You see, in the middle of the night, he would wake me up. "Hey, dumbass, this was the best day of my entire life." The worst day of his life at that time would come the very next day. He was talking back to Mrs. Smith like usual. A back and forth ensued, and so he called her ugly, which pissed her off. And so during lunchtime, the principal had a list of names that he was going to perform disciplinary actions in front of the whole school as an example. I remember there were 5 of them, and one of them was yours truly, Lil Noobnoob. I also remember another student who was actually sitting next to me. I remember him because he had his barber write down pimp juice on his head. And I remember asking him if pimp juice tastes good, and he told me to shut my bitch ass up. Anyway, the principal lined the students up execution style and had them take their pants down with their underwear. The 5 kids standing there, heads facing the wall, bare ass facing us. The principal took out the frying pan and whooped their asses one by one. Cries of pain was heard from the 5 youths, and cries of joy was heard from the students, especially when Lil Noobnoob got his ass whooping. And by the way, this actually happened 100%. Everything of course did, but I'm always adding a little dramatic flair into it. But this part right here, no, this actually happened, word for word. Lil Noobnoob had entered a new state of rebellion. After receiving his ass whooping, he came to me, grabbed me by the neck, and told me, "Listen, dumbass, you tell Ma about this and I'll call the cops on your bitch ass. And boy, you best believe I write pimp juice on your forehead." 23 years later, and I still don't know what pimp juice tastes like. Lil Noobnoob then went on a spree. He was forced to attend a special class, and I was forced to attend with him to report to mother if he was behaving well or not. Now, of course, I would always tell mother that he was an angel, because I ain't no snitch. You see, as I mentioned before, it is rule number 17 in the Surviving in the Hood rule book. It is a rule that everyone knows. Snitches get stitches. Not to mention the new 7.5 rule that would apply to me. Pimp juice would be written on my forehead. The truth is, he drove that old teacher known as Mrs. Woods crazy. That poor soul actually thought she could get to him. What else happened? Oh yes, during music class, the music teacher would tell him to hit a specific high note. And well actually, listen to this. This is a recording of what his high note sounds like. During a specific science class, where they needed to take care of a frog for one day, he managed to kill the frog before even stepping out of school. And then finally, the last dance would occur. One day, out of nowhere, "Hey yo, Mrs. Smith, dang, you looking uglier than usual, goddamn." Perhaps she was ugly, I don't know. She had to leave the classroom for 2 whole minutes to wipe the tears from her face. And when she stepped back in, she told him, "Mr. Little Noobnoob, the principal wants to see you. Now."
Oh, well, shit, Mrs. Smith. You know what? If the principal wants me or needs something from me, he can come to me. I'm staying here. Know what I'm saying? 'Cause I ain't moving, baby.
This incident, of course, forced another parent meeting. It was after class. It was Lil Noobnoob, mother, Mrs. Smith, and the principal. All the students were outside, peeking in to find out what the final verdict will be. Are they finally going to be saved by the notorious monster known as Lil Noobnoob? Or would he finesse his way out of it? Even Mrs. Woods was there, praying it would be the end of her misery. They finally step out. Mother's face was red, fuming with anger. Mrs. Smith and the principal looked professional, but they definitely were hiding their true emotions. And of course my brother, Lil Noobnoob, had the same Grinch smile on his face, which confused everyone. "Students," the principal said, "I would like to announce to y'all that this student known by Lil Noobnoob has not been suspended." Everyone sighed, and screams of "no" were heard. Mrs. Woods even cried out of disappointment. "Because he has been expelled from the school." The cries of joy throughout the school was overwhelming. The tears of sadness turned into tears of joy. It was the greatest day in the elementary school's history. I remember Mrs. Smith and the principal looked each other in the eye, cracked a smile and winked. I wouldn't be surprised if they did the nasty afterwards. And so that was the end of Lil Noobnoob in this elementary school. It was the longest ride back home, filled with yelling and screaming. 30 minutes in, after stepping into the house, of course he called the cops on us again, gave us a final warning, and my mother had enough. Not only was it the end of elementary school for Lil Noobnoob, but the dream of living a so-called better life in the United States of America was over. She held a council with father regarding the situation, and you really don't want to hold a council with father. The final verdict was to return to the lands of the unknown. It was the only hope to save Lil Noobnoob from his own demise. And to this day, the legend of Lil Noobnoob is talked about in the hood. Lil Noobnoob graffitis were scattered around, and the older generation would always tell his story to scare the children. Some would brag about knowing him. Others would swear they were from his crew, but no one ever dared to step even close to Lil Noobnoob's legendary status. As far as Lil Noobnoob, well, he's now known as Noobnoob, and it is believed that he turned his life around. What is he doing now, you ask? Well, he is back in the land of dreams, America, where he works as a resident physician, believe it or not, in one of the most prestigious hospitals somewhere in the United States of America, taking care of patients. Or is he? Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to the channel, share the video so we can reach 500 likes. If anyone knows what pimp juice tastes like, please do let me know. And I'll see you in the next one.